everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to you, Krista. How you doing tonight?
I am great. I'm
Good.
doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. I am looking forward to this show. We were
hmm
just backstage talking with Steve Skinner, and
hmm
when you talk to somebody, when you book somebody and you haven't spoken to them before, you're kind of nervous as to what their personality is and everything, and how they're going to be. But he seems really cool. He seems really
Yep.
cool. Really
Yep. Yep.
interesting. Can't wait
Yeah.
to talk to him.
I agree.
And yeah, yeah. Couple things before we get going. I'm always stuck late getting this stuff anyway, but head on over to Purple Penguin Crafts and Creations if you're looking for some Paranormal Among Us merchandise. It's on the bottom of their website. They have t-shirts, they have little pillows, keychains, all kinds of cool stuff for you there. What else are we saying? Oh, if you have any kind of paranormal stories that you would like to share with anybody, send me an email at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. I've had a few trickle in that I'm going to try and get to in a few episodes. Usually do that on my Tuesday show, so send them in if you have anything, and we'll get them on the air for you. So
Yeah.
anything. And next Saturday, Krista, you're going to be out at Melbourne.
Malvern Manor with Josh Hurd is gonna. Well, we're gonna go hang out with Josh Hurd this time, and I'm gonna feed you tacos too.
It'll be a taco Saturday.
Yeah, Taco Saturday. That'll be it. And hopefully Brandy can make it to that one. And so if she does, then maybe I can chime in from up there.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We can see that a little bit, and but we'll just roll with what we have.
That's right.
So
That's right. It'll be fun.
all right, so we're going to bring on Steve Skinner. He is the owner of the Haunted Castle House in Brumley, Missouri. Steve, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking your time out of your Saturday for us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, awesome. Anytime. So tell us a little bit about you. Let's start with a little bit about you, how you got into the paranormal world.
Okay. Well, I really don't have any paranormal background. Growing up, nothing ever happened, or if it did, I just didn't realize it. And our oldest daughter years ago was convinced our house was haunted. And I'm a physician, conservative Christian, grew up with no nonsense parents, and the paranormal was just dismissed. It just something that didn't exist. And so when our daughter, who was 15 at the time, was convinced our house was haunted, it went from cute to kind of being annoying. And so I decided to find the most haunted place in America and take her there. So I got online, and I kept coming across the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs.
Beautiful
So
place.
planned a little road trip, and my intent was to go and show where there's no such thing as ghosts. And we had some of the most amazing things happen there. We actually caught a lot of it on video, and my world paradigm just exploded. I realized I knew nothing. I had to apologize to a lot of people for being an obnoxious skeptic and writing off their stories. And I just became fascinated with it, because all of a sudden this world I denied, it's clearly there, and I wanted to learn all I can. So we went to a variety of places, and had some pretty good experiences at most places we went. And after a while, I decided if we could ever find a haunted location that was for sale, I could buy that, and it could serve as my paranormal lab. We came across Brumley back in 2016. We currently live in Alabama, and we'd never heard of Brumley, Missouri, never heard of the Castle House. But when we found it online, we made a trip there, and just fell in love with it. So this will be our 6th year of owning it now.
Wow. Fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's quite a place. I personally have never been there, but I plan on coming, so we'll have to get together. But I have watched several TV shows, one being The Dead Files.
Right.
I believe Amy Allen was there.
Right.
And so that was my first time I had heard of your location. And then my second time I watched The Paranormal Files with Colin Browen, which is a great episode also. So, yeah, it looks like a cool place.
So we've really enjoyed it. When we bought the place, we didn't really know anything about it. We didn't realize the Dead Files had been out there at that time. That wasn't a show that I watched. And, after we bought it, we learned that, went back and watched the particular episode. And it's really interesting because almost all the things Amy talks about, we've actually experienced. The only things I would say I would disagree with a little bit is she said she took 2 spirits with her. If she did, they came back or they never left because the things they were doing in that episode, we still have that happen periodically. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, she was spot on an awful lot of things.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I was. We were going to be. Me and another group were going to be down there the 19th through the 21st, but something came up and the trip had to be canceled. So, no big deal. We'll get out there eventually. But I was looking forward to it. So, but I was gonna do a live show from out there, and do a little ghost hunt live. We did one at Ashmore Estates in Illinois, and that went over pretty good. So I was going to try one at your place, but we'll get to there eventually.
Absolutely.
Sure.
So give us a little history on the haunted castle house.
Okay. Well, when we bought the home, we were told a history that was pretty incredible. But as we got digging into things, there were some things that were off, a little mistaken. And so we got with the Miller County Historical Society. We've done lots of research on our own, and the Historical Society actually got us a copy of the research that the Dead Files had done. So basically, the very first owner of the land was Reverend Jacob Shaw McComb. He bought it in 1859. He and his wife Emily moved out here, and she gave birth shortly after they moved to their 4th child, John G. He died at the age of 5 weeks. That's the first recorded death on the property. Emily went on to have 10 children, and she passed away about a year after the last one was born. So that's our second recorded death. And at that time, we think the old homestead was a little bit north of where our house is, about 100 yards, still in our front yard. And we think that because we've done ground penetrating radar out there a couple of times, and both teams have identified the foundation and metal detecting. We found a lot of things consistent with it. After Reverend McCombs moved, he sold the property to his cousin, to Dr. John Connor. And Dr. Connor also was a pharmacist or had his own apothecary shop, and he was the county coroner. So he was out there for several years and would have seen patients, possibly would have prepared bodies or done autopsies there. Then the house goes to Clark Martin, and I think he's the one who built the current house in 1885. When he purchased it, the property was reduced to the 2.2 acres the house is on now. There's a Martin Hotel that Clark also owned that's just couple 100 yards from where the house is. And I just think it makes the most sense that he's probably the builder of it. And the house built out of concrete. It's all concrete that was harvested from limestone on the property, and it sets on big concrete slabs too. And the concrete may have a little role in why it traps energy or holds energy, and part of the haunting with it. The Ozark aquifers underneath us. We have wet water springs running underneath us. And then just to hit a couple of other interesting owners, it went through several different people. I think we're the 26th or 27th owners of the property.
Wow.
It was also owned by another doctor, Dr. Walter Dixon. He and his wife, Grace, lived in the house from 1928 to 1930. And Dr. Dixon actually died in the house in the upstairs master bedroom. He's the first recorded death inside the home. After he owned the house, it went to his son, Jim Dixon, for a little while, and then Jim sold it to the next doctor, Dr. Myron Jones. Dr. Jones was there for 12 years, practiced in the house as well. When he left, they sold the house to the Basses, who then sold it to the Sullivans, Bert and Cecil Sullivan. Bert and Cecil both eventually passed away in the house too. Bert passed away in 1963 from severe problems with rheumatoid arthritis, and Cecil lived another 21 years and passed away in 1984, also in the master bedroom from complications from dementia. Wow. The house to Sergeant Emerson Ali, and 4 years later he passed away in the house from a heart attack. So we've got 4 owners that passed away in the house, 2 owners that died on the property outside of it, and 3 different doctors that have been out there, 2 of them being coroners. So it's got a pretty interesting history.
Yes, it does. It sounds like, and for those of you that are that are watching and don't know, Brumley, Missouri is actually, a lot of you might have heard of Lake of the Ozarks. It's not far from Lake of the Ozarks in kind of mid-Missouri. So you're really only maybe 15, 20 miles from Lake of the Ozarks?
Yeah, about 10. About 10.
Yeah, it's not very far. Yeah.
Yeah. And I figured it was about a 2-hour drive from St. Louis, if that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not too far. It's
Yeah.
outside of Camdenton, closer to.
Right.
Yeah. And I have his the website for the Haunted Castle House in chat. Go check it out. There's some really interesting pictures on there. I didn't get a chance to download those pictures and put them on here, but some interesting things going on over there are down there, I should say.
Yeah. Can we maybe talk about like how you learned about the yard? Explain to people what goes on and what supposedly.
Yeah, with the yard, we were told initially there was a pioneer graveyard on one side of the backyard and a mass grave on the other side. And as we got digging into things, we brought ground penetrating radar teams out in 2019 and in 2020. And both teams found similar findings. They found both of them found the old home site, and both of them said on the mass grave, there's definitely something buried there. It could be people, could be body parts, could be animals, but something was definitely there. With the pioneer graveyard, there's a bunch of old stones that are set up, large limestone pieces that are up, and about 70% of them, they got hits on the eastern side centered on the stones. And that's consistent with the way people were buried, so they'd rise towards the eastern sun. And so the second team that came out also had cadaver dogs, and the cadaver dogs got hits on 5 of the sites in the pioneer graveyard. And the gentleman that was out there, they do a lot of work with one of the universities in Memphis, and he said, it depends on how long ago somebody was buried and whether it was in a pine box or in linen or nothing at all, how much decay and erosion, and said, if they totally decayed, the dogs might get a hit, 10 feet down below where the actual body had been buried. But, having both teams find that, having the dogs get hits, having some suggestion that John G. and Emily and possibly other family members would have been buried there, knowing that family graveyards were common, the location's a good site for it. I decided the next thing to do was to start digging. So I started digging on one of the sites, and I found 7 coffin nails there so far. And coffin nails could have been used for other type of carpentry. That still doesn't prove anything, but I think it just adds one more piece of evidence. And if there was still something wasn't completely decayed, if we could actually find a bone, obviously it'd be wonderful to be able to do DNA and give somebody a proper marker and notify the appropriate authorities regarding that. So they would have been buried over 150 years ago. So I don't know that we ever will find something, but each little bit that we do find, I think, adds to the credibility. And we get some interesting things occurring out in the graveyard at night. And so we have a lot of interesting activity with tripwires and EMF devices. And obviously we don't have any electricity running out there. And a lot of shadows are seen out there, both dark shadows and lighter shadows. And one particular site, a lot of the mediums that come out there are drawn to that particular stone. So it's an interesting location.
Interesting.
It's pretty interesting that you take the time to kind of investigate the area around it too, like the graveyards and stuff, and try and find evidence of who these people are and stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
So what kinds of things go on in your place?
Well, we've had pretty much the whole range of things that I personally had occur. I've seen 5 different apparitions. One of them I've seen a couple of times. It's an apparition of a little boy, and the little boy and one young lady I've seen, they look real life. They look flesh colored and with clothing has color on it. The other 3 ladies that I've seen have all been older ladies that are kind of in that black and white spectrum. They're monochromatic. We've had, I think, either 3 or 4 different teams that have also seen the little boy. So he's definitely our most common apparition. We don't know who he is. I don't really know who any of the spirits are. I've got some thoughts, but I don't know anything for certain. And I'm kind of hesitant too, being in a small town. Brumley is 91 people. I don't want to say.
Blink your eyes.
great grandmother's haunting my house when you're convinced she's up in heaven. I mean, that's not my place to go into those things. So, but we've had that. We've had shadow figures. There's a hallway upstairs that we see those in not infrequently. Judy and I both will hear our names called, and we think it's the other person, and we go when it's not. One day I was setting up towards the front of the house doing my dermatology work. I was doing, on computer, checking my nurse practitioner's notes and things, going over labs. So I'm not thinking about ghosts at all. And I hear coming from the back porch just wailing. So I think Judy's gotten a call from home that somebody's died. But, it's just that really distinct, heartfelt, just brokenhearted cry. I go back there, there's nobody there. Judy's still in the ghost-free extra room, and, she didn't hear a thing. We've been touched. We will hear what sounds like a little child behind us go, "Hey," and you turn around and there's nobody there. You'll hear whistling in a room, and you go in that room, and then you hear whistling in the room you were just in, and you go there, then it's in another room.
Wow.
There's a lot of curious things that occur.
Yeah, there's one thing I do have to ask you about, and you have a room with some weird artifacts.
Yes, we have our curiosity room. The particular room originally was just a storage room, and then when the owners got electricity, that was a bathroom. So there's nothing bad about the room itself, but anything I get in that makes Judy uncomfortable, pretty much I put back there. And the room's fairly small, and it just has a little entranceway that we have a couple or drapes, I guess, covering it, blackout blinds. So you can really make the room pitch dark. So that room too, we use for scrying and for sensory deprivation things. But we have a host of items ranging from a true human skull that we got from a dental college over in Bristol, England. The college, this particular skull was used up until I think 1944, 1945. So the skull's got to be over 100 years old.
Wow.
We have an infant viewing casket that we got from a farm in Iowa. We have a variety of different deities and carvings from all over the world, from Africa, Guatemala, Indonesia, the Philippines. We've got a shaman's mat from the 1800s that has real goat horns and hair and was used in exorcisms and other religious rituals. We have funerary mask from Africa. We have one of the Nasiki figures, the ancestral protective figures from Africa. We've got an old ball and chain from a farm in Rome, Georgia from the 1800s. Drying mirrors, just, anything odd or curious that we come across or somebody wants to give us, that's where it goes.
Wow, that's quite a collection, I have to say. Do you believe there's anything negative in your house?
I go back and forth on that. Mostly no. There's only been 2 times I've ever been scared in the house, and we've gone all over. I mean, we've been to Leap Castle over in Ireland. We've been to Waverly and Transallegheny. Usually we have the places to ourselves, so we don't have to deal with interference or contamination. And any sound or anything, I always go to it. We always joke in a horror movie, I'm the first person dead because I hear something. Oh, what would that be? And I've never been scared at any of the other locations we've been. But our first night in the Castle House as owners, we worked half a day. We drove 9 hours. We got up there close to midnight. It was late December. We're both exhausted. Judy and I go up to the master bedroom, and I get in bed next to the wall, and I fall asleep really quick. Judy, who is not as much of a paranormal enthusiast, is in a new home, in a house that might be haunted. She is looking at a closet door that has this big hole in it from when it was uninhabited before. Some vandals broke some things, and it looks like it's from The Shining. So she's very, very much awake. And I go to sleep about 15 minutes, and then we both hear 5 really loud bangs coming from that closet door. This is like somebody's trying to break the door down kind of bangs. So I think it's an intruder. I grab my 357 and I go to the closet and look, there's nobody there. I check everything upstairs. There's nobody. I get down to the ground level, and our door's still deadbolt locked. Our security system's still on. And then I realize my poor sweet wife is alone in the room with the banging. And I get upstairs. I'm just shaking. I've never experienced something like that. And so, eventually after a couple hours, fatigue wins, I fall back asleep. I got woken up again with my pillow being pushed in and a man's voice by my right ear going, So,
Oh, that's creepy. That gave me goosebumps.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
there was one other night a couple of years ago, and nothing odd had happened on this particular trip. But I got Judy was in the little safe room. She was getting ready to go to bed there, so I told her I was going upstairs. And I got to the foot of the stairs, and I just felt like I don't need to go up for some reason. It was just really odd. So I thought, well, that's silly, but I'll do something down here for another 10 minutes. And I get ready to go up again, and it hits me even stronger. And so then I'm mad at myself that I'm afraid to go upstairs. But I thought I'll just spend another 10 minutes. And after that, I finally went back for a third time. As I stepped on the steps, I felt it stronger still, felt nauseated at my stomach. And I just thought, well, for whatever the reason, I don't need to be there tonight. I'll just stay with Judy down here. Probably nothing would have happened, but it was a pretty overwhelming feeling.
Always trust your gut.
Exactly.
Outside of that, I don't think we've had anything that we would consider dark. And I think those are probably more, if anything, mischievous human spirits. I don't think there's anything demonic or bad at our place.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal.
So you say you live in Alabama now, and then you spend half your time in Brumley there. How is that transition for you guys? Do you take anything back with you to Alabama?
We do some of the things that are a little more valuable. We just transport those back and forth each way. We haven't had any problem with crime up there. We've got great security systems in place. We have a wonderful neighbor across the street who keeps a watch on things. And but there's just a few things I'm afraid, if somebody did break in, they'd be hard to replace. So some of the stuff we transport back and forth.
Any attachments go with you back home to Alabama?
It's funny that the first several times that we got back, we did bring something back. The first time, Judy and I were in bed at night, and we were getting ready to call it a night, and a salt lamp came on, but it was unplugged. And I went over and looked at it because I'm like, that shouldn't be happening, and showed her it was unplugged, and then it went back off. And then another time we got back, we're in bed again, and we hear a really loud thud, and we do an EVP, and we actually catch a voice we've never caught before, and we think we probably brought it back. But the last several times, that doesn't seem to happen as much. I think things have maybe figured out where they want to be. But
yeah. Wow, very cool. Well, next time, if you're ever, whenever you come back to Missouri and you're ever wanting a little road trip and to see another haunted location, I'll invite you to the Ray County Museum. One of my very good friends runs that place, and they do the ghost hunting and stuff like that there. It's a great building too.
And I'm sorry, what was the name of it again?
It's the Ray County Museum, and it's in Richmond, Missouri, which is outside of Kansas City.
Okay, yeah. We're always looking for new places to go, so we'll add that to the list.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great place.
There's a lot of other cool places near Kansas City, in Atchison, Kansas. McIntyreville is over there.
We've been over to McIntyre. We know Stephanie well, and love that place. It's very, very neat.
Stay away from the Sally House.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear mixed things about that. Groups that have absolutely nothing, and groups that will never go back again.
That house plays on.
Yeah. So you said you were looking to buy a haunted house. What made you settle for the haunted castle house, and where did you find it?
Okay, well, basically with my physician background, I try to think of things as objectively as I can. And so I thought, with all the places we went and we had neat things happen, I thought there's still a financial incentive for people to fake things. So if I could find a place that could be my paranormal lab, and I'm not going to fake anything on myself. So for a couple of years, I'd get online around Halloween and look for haunted houses for sale. And either they were too far away or too expensive. But in 2018, I just came across one online for the house in Brumley, and we'd never heard of Brumley. We'd never heard of the Castle House, but we got to look and thought it's a 9-hour drive, and we do road trips all the time. So we thought, well, that's very doable. And it was under 6 figures. So we thought that's affordable. We'll go up there and take a look at it. And on our drive up there, the whole way, we talked about how ridiculous it would be to buy a house from people we didn't know in a town we never heard of that was 9 hours away that might be haunted. Right. And, but as cheesy as it says, we absolutely fell in love with it. And we decided, if it turns out not to be haunted, we'll sell it in a year, maybe take a little loss, but
Mhm.
it's going to be worth a try. And the property was great. The previous owners were very kind and very gracious, and close to Lake of the Ozarks. So, it was just a lot of reasons that I thought it was worth taking a risk. And honestly, I thought, after the first year, it's probably going to be a bust, and we'll just look for something else. But it's had enough activity that it's kept us there for 6 years.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I read is that you are the previous owners, I guess the previous two owners have really helped you guys with the history of it and anything that you needed there. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, the previous owners, were very forthcoming with things, and some of the history they had, we found out really wasn't accurate. And history's so hard to really,
Yeah.
figure out. But the historical
Sure.
society has been phenomenal. I mean, we know every single owner since Reverend McCombs. We got birth certificates, death certificates,
Wow.
deeds, and newspaper articles. So yeah, we've really got a really good complete history on the physical part of it.
Mhm.
The normal part.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do you have groups go there when you guys aren't around?
No, we never let anybody be on site unless we're physically there. I'd lead the 1 hour tours, the 2 hour tours, the 4 hour investigations. And then when teams come, Judy and I are both there, and we stay in the little attached room. So we try to keep out of the way, but we're also there in case there's any issues. If, fuse
Sure.
blows, if, we've had, unfortunately, we've had a few people get scared out in the middle of the night. And so, we want to make sure we're there if there's any issues or any problems. And if not,
That's
we try
smart.
to be quiet and stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Yep. Understand that.
Yeah. It's kind of neat having the owners there as well when you're
Mhm.
doing a ghost hunt.
Yeah. With the when we do the Ray County Museum, my friend, she's the one that is administrator there. So, she sticks around too, but she lets people do their thing, and if they have
Right.
questions or need something, she's there. And I've helped her many nights, and it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of cool people in the field doing that.
You really do. That's been a great blessing. All the folks we come into contact with that we never would have met otherwise. I mean, it's really,
Sure.
really fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Paul, we're going to have to look up on the website and let's book a date, man.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk to you about that off camera here
Yeah.
when we're done. Because we definitely need to get out there and see this and have a fun night out there.
Yep. Everything right. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like a great place. And, from what I've seen and watched and read on it, it's pretty amazing.
We, really enjoyed it. And, one thing we tell people is that, if you come and stay and something happens, you can be completely confident nothing's being staged. We have nights that nothing occurred. Like, after that first initiation, when Judy and I got scared our first night there,
Mhm.
I told her, I've got to go back by myself. I'm very competitive. The house beat me. It scared me. It's one. I'm nothing. I'm not going to be scared of the house. So I went back up 2 weeks later by myself, and I stayed a weekend. There wasn't a board that creaked. There wasn't an odd sound or feeling. And, it just felt like you're at your grandmother's house. And, we noticed that that's kind of the trend. Every week that we're up there, you'll have a day with nothing, and then you'll have a day, where you're seeing somebody walk across a room that's not really there. And
Yeah.
we've really noticed too that most of the time you feel the haunt before you see it. It's like the atmosphere changes in some way, heavier or staticky, or you get a different sensation within you. And that's when most things occur. And we
Sure.
have as much happen, in daytime as we do at night. It's
Mhm.
neat living in a house around 24 hours around the clock, because you really get to see the ebbs and flows of the activity.
Yeah. Is your home in Alabama haunted at all?
Off the record, yes. Judy doesn't
Wow.
like to hear that. But
Gotcha. Okay.
we both have things that happen. Judy, she's interested in it. She just doesn't like living in a haunted place.
Yeah.
So we just don't talk much about the stuff that happens here. But we frequently hear conversations going on, in different rooms, and we'll go when there's nobody there. We've seen a few ghosts here as well. And I don't know if they came with us after our investigations, or if that was something that was always here. The land that we live on here is pretty old and has some pretty good Civil War history with it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, honestly, I think probably every place is haunted. I think you just have to either be willing to admit it or to be opened up to it. But you think of how long the Earth's been around and how many people have lived in all different areas. I think it's more likely to be haunted than not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
We have a couple questions, if you don't mind taking some questions tonight. Are there time loops at the castle?
And I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I think what T-Bone means is like a kind of like a residual, where it just kind of keeps repeating itself.
I think we probably have both the residual and some intelligent hauntings. With the time loops, it's hard for me to really pin down anything other than there's a lady that I've seen and others have seen standing by a dresser in the master bedroom. And, with orbs, I know that's a very controversial topic. And, my bias, and it's just, my bias is that most of them are dust and bugs. But in that master bedroom, we have a motion detector that gets set off a couple times a year by a solitary large orb that pulsates and goes from that dresser to the closet. So it has to have mass or a heat signature to set it off. So that to me seems like that might be a possible spiritual orb. And because it's almost the exact path every time, I can't help but wonder, if maybe that's a residual energy. Maybe somebody had just put their clothes up and was going to the closet to get something else. So I think we probably do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Robert here, he's from Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri Paranormal Cam. He's wondering, how can his team get in there to investigate?
If you go to our website, hauntedcastlehouse.com, that has our available dates and the information about scheduling an investigation. And unfortunately, since we're not there full time, and since it's primarily my paranormal lab, we don't have a ton of dates available. We had intentions on having it open a lot more, but one of the guys that we thought was going to be able to assist in that had some other obligations and wasn't able to. So any nights that are available, any times are there, and all the information. Judy, my wife, has done a wonderful job putting that all together. So it's pretty self-explanatory once you get to the site.
I think it's funny hearing a doctor call it his paranormal lab. I just that phrase that you keep throwing out, that just awesome. That makes me laugh every time.
Yeah.
Well, really, that was my mentality on it. I was trying, because scientifically things are supposed to be observable and reproducible, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to make the spiritual or ethereal dimension fit into the known physical laws. But I still think trying to approach it rationally and as objectively as you can is helpful. And I very naively thought once we started doing a few things at this place, we'd have a lot of answers. And as I think most people find out, all you really end up with a ton more questions. And
absolutely. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think I've heard a lot of people say like the building chose them? Do you feel like that house picked you?
I really do. And my prior to 2012 self would say I had lost my mind. I would never have said that. 2012, my little epiphany occurred. But I really do. I mean, Judy and I talk about this a lot. How in the world did we end up in a town that we have no connection to, that's that far away, that's an inconvenience, it's a money pit, that, is an odd hobby. But like I said earlier, when we pulled up, we had been talking about this would be ridiculous. And before we even got out of the car, we thought, oh my gosh, we love this place. And I mean, we really feel like it. And I don't know if it's, the medical ties with 3 different doctors, having been there before. There also was a Skinner Elementary School just a little bit down the road years ago that's been long closed. I don't know if I might have relatives connected with that, but
wow.
For whatever reason, I think whoever runs things behind the scenes, we were brought there for a purpose.
You were definitely chosen.
Now, when you first bought it, did you have a lot of work to do to bring it up to the code for people to go through it, or what was that process like?
Yeah, there was a lot to do. We had to completely replace the roof. We had a lot of electrical and plumbing issues, and the little attached room that's on the side of the house. It was just basically plywood, and so we had to have that taken care of and have hardy board put up. We've had to have windows replaced. So yeah, there was a lot. The first year, year and a half at least, we're really focused on that. And then every year something else comes up. It's a concrete house that's 140 years old. And last year, the ceiling was the sealant on the concrete had peeled off in a lot of areas. There were, cracks and chips and holes. So we had to have the entire thing sandblasted, the concrete patched, resealed, repainted. So maintenance is is a never ending project with it.
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Good deal.
Yeah.
What's the most haunted room in your house?
The master bedroom, hands down.
Okay.
That's the room where the most apparitions are seen. That's the room where if you're going to get scared or uncomfortable, it's probably going to happen. In that room myself, I've seen an older lady. I woke up one night and saw a young man who, African-American, looked like he was about 10 years old, holding a drum in front of him, just standing, smiling very pleasantly at me. I don't know of any connection he would have with the house. This year, on 2 different occasions, I was sleeping in there, and I'll back up a little. Judy would sleep anywhere in the house if I really wanted her to, but she's so much more comfortable in the ghost-free room. So if I have guests, I usually pick different rooms each night to try to experience things. So I was sleeping in the master bedroom, and I woke up and I heard what sounded like a little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, humming and talking behind me. So I went around, and of course, nothing was there. So I figured I probably just dreamt it. About 4 nights later, the exact same thing happened, but this time I just held still. And I was wide awake. She kept on humming and talking. And as soon as I slowly started to turn, she disappeared again. But that's our most active room, and the one that I think is probably most of our guests' favorite.
Awesome.
Wasn't there and I'm looking on your website now. Here it is. A camp union is 1 mile from the property.
Reverend McCombs, who was the first owner of the property, he served in Company D, which was the Missouri Home Guard, and the camp extended basically from about the edge of our property, a half mile to a mile away to this creek. So we know Reverend McCombs and some of his buddies would have walked back up to the home periodically. There weren't any skirmishes there that we're aware of, but when you get on the back half of the property where that area is, we do have several people who feel like they interact with soldiers back there, both soldiers and with Native Americans. And with the Native Americans, we know the Osage were there, and then other tribes, prior to them. We found some arrowheads, skinning stones, part of an effigy there. So I think, we have several, different errors, if you will, that show up periodically at the house.
Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Native American site, and on your website it says there's a bone cave.
Yeah.
What is a bone cave?
It's a cave that was named that because there were several bones, both animal and human bones, found there. And it's, I think, about 5 miles away from it. We haven't personally been to it. We've had several of the guests that attended it there, and we've looked up things about it online, and the Dead Files, mentioned that as well. It's now protected, trying to keep people from obviously from raiding it and taking, the artifacts and the bones that are in there. But there was a strong Native American presence in there.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what it was, but I never heard of a bone cave before, and I was, wanted to be.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
That's interesting. There's another question. T-Bone has some great questions. Did you see that one, Paul? There.
That one. Any alien activities?
To my knowledge, there hasn't been. It's funny. We've got a picture that we show a lot of the groups that come through, and it's a picture that's taken in a mirror that's part of an old vanity. And I know mirrors are horrible for evidence. There's so many imperfections and so many ways things can trick you. But one weekend, I got several pictures of what looks like something sitting on top of the chest of drawers that's across from it. And it really looks a lot like a gray. It's got a big head and big black eyes and kind of a long, spindly body. And most people look at it, says it looks like either a gray or I'm sorry, that the character Jack Skeleton
from
Nightmare
Before Christmas.
Christmas. But that's the closest I've had. I've seen wonderful shooting stars out there. Our little town's 91 people, and we're really in the middle of nowhere. So when the meteor showers come through, you get some wonderful watching out there. But I haven't had any alien experiences that I'm aware of yet.
Yeah. Well, I know Brumley is out in the middle of nowhere. And got any Bigfoot activity out there?
We haven't that we're aware of. We do have one team that's been out a couple of times, and they've done some knocking for Bigfoot. They
Mhm.
also had some outside cameras, and uh, one of the cameras behind, where the tripod is, of course, it's behind it. You hear something that sounds pretty big rummaging around, and the camera vibrates and moves a little. But we have deer and bobcat and all kinds of varmints out there. So probably just one of the local wildlife. But so we've had teams that have looked, but we haven't seen anything yet. And we
Yeah.
have game cameras up way back in the back part.
Mhm.
Uh, so we try to monitor all the property, and hopefully, if there's any around, one day we'll see something on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Very
do
cool.
have a Bigfoot story. If you have a minute, from
Sure.
you know,
Absolutely.
as a practicing physician, I was kind of shy about mentioning my ghost experiences until I got a little bit further out, and as I started talking to people, it was reassuring to find pretty much everybody had a story, but they just didn't talk about them because they were
Mhm.
embarrassed. So I started around Halloween asking my patients, "Have you ever had anything odd happen?" And I'd get all kinds of stories, from aliens to ghosts to Bigfoot. But the
Mhm.
two Bigfoot stories, the first was a little lady in her 80s. She'd been a patient for over a decade, not on any medicines that would affect her mental faculties, very
Mhm.
sharp. And she said that when she was driving to her home, and they live close to national park or national forest, middle of the day, a Bigfoot ran in front of her, and said she slammed on her brakes. It reached its hand out, touched the hood of her car, and ran on into the woods. And she said that the two things that were that really stuck out to her, one was that it was white, and other, the hair under the arms was really long. So I'm thinking, we've
Wow.
got some pranksters with a ghillie suit that are out there doing this kind of stuff. But she was completely convinced, and a very believable person. And then the next day, I had another lady tell me that when she was young, her brother and cousin used to play in the woods. And one day they came running back, scared to death, and they said they had seen a Bigfoot, but it was a white Bigfoot. And this lady lived in the same general area that my first patient. And so I got online to look about, white Bigfoot. I
Mhm.
heard of such. And in Alabama, there's actually a little triangle where the white thing, THANG, has been reported for, I think, 150 years or so, which is basically a white Bigfoot. And it fascinated me that these two people that didn't know
Sure.
each other and weren't selling things, that had, no reason to lie, saw something that, was
Yeah.
consistent with that. So,
Wow, that's really interesting. Alabama has quite a bit. We have a good friend, Greg Ogles, and he does a lot of his research there. Not well, he lives in Alabama, but he's
uh-huh.
in the mountains there, and he gets a lot of good stuff actually
Yeah.
from your area. So very cool. That is pretty amazing that two patients that didn't know each other had the same type encounter. With the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really isn't something that was totally new to me. I mean, that's one of the nice things. I learned so much. My eyes get open pretty much every time I get
Mhm.
a chance to talk with other folks. So
Yeah.
it's a fascinating journey.
I think it's awesome that you're open to it, especially, with your profession, that, I mean, I'm sure you've seen things you can't explain, I mean, on a spiritual level, I had talked to another doctor who was into this, and he was a physician for the burn unit and for a
Yeah,
big hospital in St. Louis. And he said that, he was always closed-minded until he witnessed things that people shouldn't have made it through.
yeah,
Like there was divine power, coming
oh
in
yeah.
and saving these people. And he said that really opened his eyes up to a lot. So I commend you for that.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think most physicians have seen
Mhm.
unexplainable healings,
Yeah.
and I think most candidly would admit they believe to it. But it's been
Mhm.
interesting as I've talked to some of my peers. They're like, "No, I don't believe in ghosts." But there was this one time, and they'll share something that is not a healing type thing, but a more ghostly type phenomena, and they'll say, that really happened. I have no idea how. I still don't believe, but
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have believed things even if Judy, if she had told me she saw a ghost. I think, well, you really believe it, but you misperceive. But to have had something happen to the magnitude we did, and to have it on video, and you
Mhm.
know I just couldn't refute it. So it's like, okay, I'm wrong. So let's start learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that was your daughter that you took to the haunted houses?
Yeah, I took Brooke, our daughter, who was 15 at the time, and Judy, and then one of her friends. So we had two separate rooms, and I fully believed we just have a great road trip, and proved to her this was nonsense, and we could go back to
Mhm.
our normal, predictable life. And I ate a lot of humble pie that weekend.
Yeah. How does she feel about you guys owning the haunted castle house?
It's really interested. She's the one who got us into this, and she was all gung ho. But she had a few things happen that felt a little darker to her, and had a lot of trouble with sleep paralysis,
Oh,
and kind of, lost her interest in it. She fully believes, but
mhm.
doesn't want to continue inviting anything into her life, and
Sure.
is very content to just leave that part behind. She still likes updates on what we have doing and going on. And she's been out to the house once, and she liked it, although she stayed in the ghost-free room with Judy and sent me back upstairs for the night. But yeah, she just got uncomfortable, and totally understandable.
Mhm.
I've never had anything really dark happen to me, and if I did, I might change my tune.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, it's funny how it impacts people.
Yeah.
I tell you, one thing that I was kind of, I don't know if worried or leery about was spending 2 nights in the haunted castle house. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
know it's not demonic, but it seems like it's a little bit more amped up than Ashmore Estates was in Illinois, and I was just kind of a little nervous about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like any place, we have nights where nothing happens, and then we have nights where it's really really active for a good hour or so. We had
Mhm.
a group from St. Louis last year that everything was real active as soon as they got there before they even set it up, and then after about an hour things died down, and about
Mhm.
5 hours later, everything started happening again. We saw apparition. We had voices coming from a closet door that was closed,
Mhm.
and somebody knocking on it from the inside. People getting touched. We, had somebody that claimed to get scratched and pushed, and so it varies considerably. But I think 2 nights at a place, no matter where it is, that the kind of
Mhm.
paranormal hangover afterwards is definitely something to
Yep. That's
factor into it. It may take a little bit to shake that all off of you.
and that's the thing too. I think like I spent a lot of time at the Ray County Museum. I've slept countless nights there, and I'm not scared there. But I've and things have happened in the night, and we've heard things, but nothing bad has never happened while I've been sleeping. So
Uh-huh.
I think too, it's a matter of like your I don't know. I won't say that like Paul, like you'll become a target. However, just don't show any fear and be confident. You
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I think your attitude and perspective certainly play a
Oh,
role in
definitely.
things, and we see so many come through with so many different personalities that it does seem activity is affected by that.
Hmm.
And it seems that if somebody comes in and they're sick or they're particularly tired,
Yep.
there's a better chance they may have a little bit less pleasant experience. I think fatigue and illness can weaken you to maybe some of the more mischievous
Yeah,
spirits, if you will.
I would
And
agree.
Judy and I have seen, and I'm a screener. I mean, I've been in the medical field. I think most of us are. I can compartmentalize and screen, and things just don't bother me. But we've had times when we are both inexplicably drained. We
Hmm.
haven't seen anything, nothing's really happened, but we just both feel like, we're exhausted, and we're both pretty high energy people normally. And, we try to write it off. It's just, well, it's the road trip. You're driving there, you're busy, and then you're
Sure.
driving back. But even when we have, a week, say, to ourselves, it's sometimes that occurs. And, we wonder, we don't obviously can't prove it, but it seems like there may be something the house might be using our energy unaware with us being unaware.
Right.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, if you guys are high energy and they feed off that energy, wouldn't they be possibly tapping into that energy, Krista?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
happens at times, and um,
And
it
that's
doesn't happen every time by any means, but it happens more than I would expect.
yeah. And maybe, it's something that you just got to put, boundaries up and say, hey guys, I'm off limits, drain them the battery, the radio over there or something like that, just, me, Judy and I are off limits is what I'd be telling them.
We definitely do that with Judy pretty regular because I mean she's very very gracious to go along with this crazy hobby of mine that is not the easiest thing when she just has a normal interest. So we really do try to say repeatedly, you're not welcome in this room. Don't bother her.
Yeah.
Myself, I often invite things just because I'm more curious than I am worried. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
That's awesome. You know, I just keep going back. I just keep thinking a dermatologist from Alabama. How cool is that he owns a haunted house?
Yep. Very cool.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I think it's just funny how, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, orchestrates things. I kind of think of it as the providence behind the scenes and putting us in places and situations to prepare us for things. And, what I thought was just a quick road trip to shut my daughter up and teach her a lesson turned into things I could have imagined. I mean, in the opportunities and the people that we've gotten to meet, the experiences we've had, the things we've learned. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I mean, it's been a wonderful journey, and kind of brings, I guess, some of the magic back to adult life that we often lose after we get out of our childhood, because there's more possibilities out there, and life's just very exciting and mysterious.
Yeah, absolutely, very cool.
Well, it certainly sounds like you have a really good thing going down there in Brumley, and we wish you nothing but the best down there. And
Absolutely.
hopefully we can put you on the spot a little bit here. Do you have any open availabilities anymore this year, or are you guys all booked up for the rest of the year?
I think we only have 2 more weekend days that are available, and one of them, I think, is the Sunday before Labor Day. We don't usually consider Sunday weekend days for overnight investigations, but since it's a holiday, the next day it kind of fits in. Since we've had to change our personal schedule a little, we're looking to see if there's anything we might can do to open up some more, in the fall. Right now, we're just not able to commit to that, but we hope to. And, we always feel bad, when we do podcast or talks, we've got this really cool place, but unfortunately there's not much access to it. And so each year we think, okay, we're going to have more available, but each year, for whatever reasons, it's fairly limited, but hopefully we'll be able to juggle a few more things around and open up some more days before fall's over.
How many square feet is the house?
The house is roughly 2,000 square feet. It's 2-story, and it has a crawl space underneath it. The crawl space is kind of interesting. I found a concealment shoe there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concealment garments, but they used to put either the wife's or the mother-in-law's shoe or garment underneath the house. So we found that. We've got it cleaned up on display. So it's a lady's boot from the 1800s. So and we've got lots of artifacts on display that we can tie to specific owners: medicine bottles from different doctors, a scalpel from a doctor, padlock, makeup, kits, just different things. So
sounds like you really have quite a museum there as well.
We pretty well do. We have both things personally tied into the owners and the land, and then we brought in some things that we think are just fitting for the objects I have in the curiosity room. We have a lot of old medical instruments there, and we're always bringing in new things. We have people periodically that'll send us things they think have attachments to them, and we brought a few things in this year along those lines, and have been very interested seeing some of the activity that's occurred associated with those. And I don't want to say too much in case somebody comes. I don't want to plant seeds in their minds, but I do think we have a few items that really do have some attachments with them.
Now, when you bring stuff in, do you look for things that could possibly have an attachment, or
I do?
You just kind of scour antique malls or something?
We do. We go to antique malls and thrift stores, and we search things online as well. But initially, we were trying to get things that primarily were functional, things that look period appropriate. Replacing a chair, those type of things, get mirrors and whatnot. But most of it now is just when we go somewhere, if I feel drawn to something, or if Judy looks at it and kind of cringes, either one of those are kind of signs. I think, we might want to bring that in. And then if it's tied in with one of the previous owners, like their medical history, or one of the owners that passed away, Bert was a barber, so we bring in things tied in with that. But we try to be selective on it.
I saw somebody, I think it might have been Nellie, posted this, I'm not sure, on Facebook today. It was a antique adult potty, and it looked like a wooden table chair that was carved out as a toilet. But it was an antique. It was $100 I saw on Facebook. So there you go.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find. We've come across some really neat things over the years, and we're always, I'd say every week, 3 or 4 times at least, we're checking different websites and always looking.
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yep.
So guys, here's the website again. Let me do a couple things. There's his website again. It's coming up on chat to check out the Haunted Castle House. Pretty cool stuff over there. There's some interesting pictures. Go look in the gallery, and there's pictures of apparitions in windows, and I think in the graveyard I saw one too. Those look pretty cool. So
Yeah.
So Steve, thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. This has been incredible. Great
fun.
talking to you. You sound like you have a really, like I said before, a really good thing going down in Brumley. So we wish you nothing but success out there.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great talking with both of you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. You have a great place, and like I said, I'm sure you'll be hearing from us.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And so Steve, hang on 1 second. We're gonna hook up with you just a second after the show. Hang on 1 second.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you all very much for spending part of your Saturday night with us. Steve was awesome. That was an incredible show. I really enjoyed that. A lot of good stuff that he has, and again, head on over to his website and pay attention to one of us. We might do an event there one of these days. So it's a pretty cool place. Yep. So, all right. So guys, a couple things for tonight. PRT's coming on here, I would think within half an hour or so.
Within the hour, guessing.
Yeah,
PRT will be on.
Hour. And don't forget tonight, BMR at midnight Eastern time, 11 o'clock Central. Yep. BMR, Krista, Brandy, Monica, Tex.
Everybody but Tex tonight. No Monica will be on, Brandy, myself, and BMR. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I get a dog here?
Probably because you have dogs.
All right. All right, guys. Have a great night. See you guys next week. And again, I'm not in the right place. All right. Good night, everybody.
See y'all.